Hello, my name is Hanno. I'm a professor in accounting at the Norwegian School of Management, and together with my colleague Professor Espen Andersen from the same Norwegian School of Management, we will now discuss the case discussion in class. This is actually where all the preparation comes in and where you can see what you do with the stuff you have carefully manufactured.
Now, case discussions can be done in many ways, and teachers vary how they actually do it in class. So, but there are certain ideals that we aspire to, and perhaps the most important one is that a case discussion should be Socratic, that building knowledge should take place in a dialogue, not just between teacher and student, but between the students themselves. After all, we're dealing with experience-based learning here. You'll find that in a good case class, you learn as much from the other students as you do from the teacher.
Yes, one of the most important things when you have these case discussions and you talk with each other is that actually your notes that you have been prepared before now come in very handy.
And also, you also see why we focus so much on preparation, because if the object of the class is that, or the objective of the class is that you should learn not just from the teacher but from each other, well, if you're unprepared for class, you're not contributing, to your own learning, but most importantly, not to that of the other students, and that is very important. That is the whole objective of having a case discussion. Now, there is a structure for a case discussion. There is a beginning, there is a middle, and an end. And like I said, people differ in how they do it. The classic is that either a group or a student will open the discussion and be asked to give an intro to the case and to give some conclusions and how he or she or the group arrived there. And that can be formal, like a group presentation, or it can be as an individual discussion. And the way these things get started can be like what is called a cold call, where a group or a student is just asked to please begin and haven't been selected beforehand. Or it can be a warm call, which is I might say, after I have a few administrative messages, but after that I'll ask Hanno to open the discussion, and then Hanno has a little bit of time to look at his notes and get his pulse down below 180 before he can start the discussion. And then lastly, we can have an open call, which is basically saying, would anybody like to start? Anybody that have, specific industry experience perhaps would like to start the discussion here.
I think especially open calls allow for more senior public, more senior participants in MBA classes to share their senior management experience, and therefore add especially to the educational value of an MBA, where the experience sharing in class, using the case discussion as a trigger, the experience sharing in class contribute significantly to educational value.
Absolutely, yeah. And also, these techniques will also differ. If it's a small class, you can be more informal. If it's a large class, you have to adhere to structure to a much larger extent. Now, the next thing is the actual flow of discussion. And here there are a couple of very important points to keep in mind. First of all, a discussion should always build on what has been previously said. It is not a competition for airtime. We as teachers are not looking, to reward the student that speaks the most or hogs the limelight or repeats what other people are saying. We're looking for quality, not quantity. And quality is not, I'm the smartest person in the room. It is, what are you doing to move the discussion forward, to actually build on what other people have saying, to facilitate the learning of the whole class? It's very, very important. And you see that both in the informal rules and how people play, but also in very simple things, like if you want to say something, you put your hand up. But as soon as somebody has gotten the floor, people pull their hand down. And you see in places where people really know how to do case teaching, that hands sort of immediately disappear as soon as somebody has gotten the floor. Because if you keep your hand up while somebody is speaking, that's an indication that you're not listening to that person, and all you're waiting to do is present your point. And, perhaps the discussion have moved off in another direction in the meantime, and you need to follow that and not sort of mindlessly ride your own hobby horses.
Yeah, I think it's important also that when you get your hand up, look at this as a way to wanting to contribute to the discussion and not saying, hey, I want to get a participation point because I want to squeeze in my little remark. It is not about that. It's just moving everything forward. And you will have much more time and much more occasions to get your participation points up anyway. Because when the discussion flows and you have some experience or some case elements that you discussed in your group or whatever, that will happen anyway. So don't look at this as scoring opportunities to get your participation going. So a hand up doesn't mean participation point for me. A hand up means I want to contribute to the discussion.
Now, on this thing about keeping your hand up, in a regular class, a student who keeps his or her hands down and doesn't signal that he or she wants to participate will generally be left alone. But that's not the case in a case class. We as teachers reserve the right to ask any student to contribute, so don't hide. You cannot hide in a case class. You will be asked. For a number of reasons, we want to hear everybody. For another reason, if we're going to set a participation grade, well, we need to hear from you. We need to have something to base this on. So that doesn't exempt you from being in there. There are a couple of other things as well. You should, of course, stay on topic. You should make your arguments clear. You should have the line of argument that Hanno referred to in previous videos. You should try to identify issues, and the teacher will help you do that. If you're, we really want to see people participate. We're patient if you get stuck for words. We will, help you. And we will try to moderate the people that speak for too long or repeatedly harp on the same point and so on and so forth. So the role of the teacher is to guide the discussion, and the role of the students are to participate and build on each other's. And we'll do things like writing on the blackboard, specific points and try to draw issues out. A very important point also is that if you argue for a certain solution, let's say solution A, then the teacher or other students might ask, well, how about solution B? And that isn't an attack on you. That is just an attempt to introduce more perspectives into the case. If you argue for solution A, I as a teacher might ask about solution B. If you argue B, I'll argue A. So the point is that we're going to go, to get the breadth of all possibilities and sort of the many perspectives of the case out there. And in the end, we might agree on a solution, or, most of the students will be here, some students will be there. And that's fine, because that's what, things are like in real managerial discussions.